No Petra Mosque and no between mosque. Dan Gibson wrongfully claims to find some Petra mosques because according to his calculation those mosques face towards Petra by some degrees. A great mistake on both sides. If Dan's report be true, the burden of mistake is on the shoulders of the mosque builders. And the mistake on the part of Dan Gibson is that he wants to take advantage of that mistake to misguide us about the Qibla. One question certainly arises. The mosque that leans towards Petra by 10 degrees surely faces Mecca by 90 minus 10 equal to 80 degrees. Why is he biased for 10 against 80? According to the reports of The Guardian and the Reuters, some Indonesian mosques mistakenly faced Somalia and Kenya. Their direction was rectified in 2010. Can anybody claim those mosques as Somalian mosque or Kenya mosque? No. Mistake is mistake. It cannot change the reality. Mosque builders use the sun to fix the Qibla direction, and sun's position is varied from season to season. So, mistake is not impossible. It does not mean that the direction or the position of the Qibla would be changed. Dan Gibson is undoubtedly mistaken in this respect. Here is the report of The Guardian. This article is more than 9 years old. Indonesian Muslims turn prayers back to Mecca after 1,000-mile mistake. The Guardian reported, citing the Muslim Ulama Council of Indonesia, that some Indonesian Muslims had been facing southern Somalia and Kenya instead of Mecca, which is more than 1,000 miles further north. They have changed the direction towards Mecca in the meantime. Please see the report on Google. On July 16, 2010, Reuters reported the same thing. Indonesian Muslims learned on Friday they have been praying in the wrong direction after the country's highest Islamic authority said its directive on the direction of Mecca actually had people facing Africa. No, there is no room for ifs and buts against this report. It is true. So the Qibla should have been in Africa, on the scale of Dan Gibson logic. Why is he crying for Petra? Is he not showing bias for Petra? Doubtlessly. Dear viewer, the Kaaba is standing there at Mecca in reality, with all its miracles and splendors. Dan Gibson's false Kaaba dimension and descriptions at Petra cannot buy with the reality. He is standing on a false ground of reverie. The ways of his falsifying Islam manifestly lead him to nonsense. None of his references is genuine. For example, he misquoted Bukhari and Tabari to create his false logic. Please watch my video on Bukhari and Tabari misquoted by Dan Gibson. He tried to exploit the feud between the Umayyads and the Abbasids to establish his false theory of the Qibla change. But it is known to everybody that the feud was for the Caliphate, not for the Qibla. And neither the Umayyads nor the Abbasids changed the direction of Qibla. His suggestion of replacing the Kaaba from Petra to Mecca by Ibn al-Zubayr is also false. The fight of Ibn Zubayr occurred in Mecca, and it is impossible to replace the Kaaba with the Zamzam from one place to another. The greatest truth about the Kaaba is that it stands in the midpoint of the surface of the earth. A split of the continents occurred later. The Kaaba stands on or by the line of the equator. where from the city of Petra is too far. So a city standing far away from the equator cannot be the claimant to hold the Kaaba. The Kaaba is the house of Allah. It stands on an earthquake-free zone. So Petra cannot be its city because earthquakes are the friends of Petra. Dan Gibson tries to establish his Petra theory only to say that the Kaaba was destroyed by an earthquake so that people may lose faith in Allah's house. A recent discovery shows that a mosque of the 7th century in Israel at Negev faced towards Mecca. Media report of 20th July 2019. It automatically proves Mecca as the city of Qibla from the beginning. Why should anybody hanker after Petra for an imaginary Qibla? Why should a Muslim care for the preconceived, immaterial research findings of a man that despises Islam? No reason. My dear friends, if you find the video good, please like it, comment on it, share it with your friends, and please subscribe the channel before you leave. Thank you for watching the video. Allah Hafiz.